What's up, y'all? Welcome back. Thank you so much for clicking play. For everyone who's new here, my name is Van, and now since you're watching the video, you are automatically LFR family. For anyone who has purchased a hat, thank you so much. Purchase a hat or a shirt or whatever. Anyone else who wants to, make sure that you please, when you click this link in the descriptions below, hatsforsale.com, make sure you put an LFR10 so you get 10% off and free shipping all over America. I want my people to get a discount, and I don't want you having to pay for shipping. If you're outside of the country, because people have been hitting me up, and they've been outside of the country saying, Van, I wish we got free shipping in Brazil. Well, check this out. Just once you get the hat, right? Go and get yourself a hat or a shirt and pay for the shipping. Pay for the shipping. And once you get it, take a picture of yourself or do like a short video saying, look, LFR family representing. Look, I got on the new swag and everything. I look good. Thank you. So, whatever. You ain't got to do all that, but just send me something. So we about to check out some more Jesse Lee Peterson. Y'all know that that's my guy. The dude is a knucklehead. But he's talking to a young lady, black young lady from UCLA she's freaking out over white privilege apparently and cultural appropriation. So that's what we're doing. We're checking this out. And just so y'all understand, back in the day, we were taught that all of the change agents, made this type of noise and cited these type of things in order to make changes. They marched. They got together, that's how it happened back, and that's how we were taught that it happened, that change happened back in the day. So when you see these young kids, young people doing it on their universities and whatnot, that's what they're trying to emulate. And plus their teachers, instructors, professors, whatever, this is what they're teaching them. So they're only doing what they're being taught. They're doing what they're being taught, not only at school, but in the home too. So, yeah, so we got to consider that. So let's go and check this out, guys. This is going to be fun. And I expect for Jesse Lee Peterson to piss somebody off because he always does.
On the night of Tuesday, October 6, 2015, the UCLA chapters of Sigma Phi Epsilon Fraternity and Alpha Phi Sorority threw a party themed Kanye Western. At this party, students were encouraged to dress as Kanye West or in Western-themed attire.
Black ruins matter! Black ruins matter! It's not a cost to our culture! It's not a cost to our culture!
Next time someone does something like this, they can expect an even bigger response.
What I don't understand, and I'm glad you're here to help me, if black kids are so unhappy at white schools, why don't they just go to black schools and be happy, and that way you can have every day without white folks? Why not just go to black schools? Because you're going to someone else's home and say, hey, let me in because I'm black, and then change the rules because I'm black. I want to be here, but I don't want to live with you. I don't want to play with you. I don't want to talk to you, but I want $50 million of your money. Why not just go to a black school and avoid all that?
That's a good question. I mean, because a university, unlike the country you're in, or unlike I will say this: you can decide on what university you want to spend your 4 years, getting your undergraduate or whatever. You can decide that. Like, these are decisions. Like, when you get older, we make decisions. The older we become, we start making decisions. And we can't just go to organizations and just tell them our rules. Like, we got to play by their rules. So, yeah, that's a great question. That's actually a pretty good question.
Well, the black school itself, most HBCUs also depend upon white people, or at least generational wealth from white people.
Why not depend upon the folks who graduate, the blacks who graduate from those schools?
You mean I think
Alumni.
because, again, black people, it's harder for us to amass that level of wealth to be able to support
Oprah
HBCUs.
can support one school by herself.
Can.
Bill Cosby, a whole lot of folks got money.
This is true.
Why don't you guys demand that you don't want to go to a white school because you can't get along with these people. We want to go to a black school, so why don't you demand that Oprah and black people with money support the black university? And then that way you can be happy.
Well, it's a little difficult, I see. For us as students, a lot of us have very different interests. I think our numbers of how many students, we have around 4% of the population at UCLA is
Right.
a little above 2,000, and that's about the size of every HBCU. So you compare that, it's like, where are many HBCU at least going to this school for our own reasons? At least for me, it was best for me to stay in California. University of California tuition is incredibly cheap
Right.
compared to any other school and private school, especially in HBCU money, tuition level. And many students are really geared towards their interests. Like UCLA is one of the top pre-med schools in the nation, and many students were really drawn towards that. And
So if that's part of your interest, you're clearly thinking about your future, and you're making decisions based off of your future. You know what I mean? Your economic situation, you want to go somewhere that's affordable to you. You want to go somewhere that's going to teach you the skills that you need in order to step out into the real world, right? But like you just now said, within this huge university, the 2,000 black people who are there are pretty much our own mini. We have our mini, M-I-N-I, mini HBCU. Well, it doesn't work that way. You're still somewhere that's culturally you don't understand, but you want to make your own rules. Well, when you want to make your own rules, this things that you got to deal with. You got to deal with real life. Like, this is real life. No bull. It's real life. It's unfortunate. And this is the thing too. A lot of people need to understand this. The beef that we have with one another is BS. It's BS. The way that this world is set up so we not mix in with one another, and we not have conversations with people who we didn't grow up with or we don't understand, so to speak. Because it's certain forces in the world that don't want us to get along, don't want us to talk, don't want us to mix it up. But unfortunately, when we do mix it up, it's always our way or the highway. No one wants to bend, no one wants to have conversations, none of that. We just automatically get offended by what you do, by what you say, by how you move, and we want you to change, but we're not going to change ourselves. You understand? That's the same thing with the N word, right? We feel like, man, whenever I want to say it, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it, whether I'm happy, whether I'm upset, whether I'm sad, I'm going to say it to you. But one thing that you're not going to do, if you don't look like me, you better not say it. You better not even act like you want to say it. Don't even laugh at somebody if they say it. It's so many different things that mess this whole thing up, but we're gonna get it right. It takes some noise in order for this, for some calm to happen. It takes a little bit of war in order for some calm to happen, and that's all that's happening. They're fighting their own little wars, and you know, petty or not, it's gonna get better.
At least for me, UCLA has an amazing African American Studies department that I've truly flourished in, and I've really loved all the people I've been able to work with. But also people are joined towards that aspect of learning to engage with their white counterparts.
Well, they're not. They're attacking. They're not engaging.
Not necessarily. I don't agree.
No, they're yelling and they want to date. What do you think about this school, this university, where the black student wanted a day without white people, and everybody left but one white liberal professor who stayed, and now they're demanding that he is fired. What do you think about that?
I find that really interesting, but if anything, I see it's an aspect to create a similar environment that black people have probably felt in.
So they want every white person to leave so they can create a black environment?
I think that's interesting. I don't.
Do you approve of that? You think they should do something like that?
I necessarily don't approve.
Oh, you don't?
I have to look into the reasons for it, the purpose of it. But
so you see that as being
hearing it,
crazy, right?
not actually crazy, because I haven't heard everything of why. You know, I want to at least know why.
I mean, that's the whole idea of one day without white folks. That's a crazy idea. Because black people have been complaining that they have been segregated, discriminated against, and now they want to do the same thing to others that they have been complaining about.
I don't necessarily think it's like you can experience what it's like from here. But I can't speak on behalf of like their reasons for it because I haven't heard much about it. But I do see how it's a challenge to their privilege.
A challenge to
White privilege.
So
It's a challenge to no, it's not a challenge to their privilege. It's racist, man. It's racist. Young people, y'all need to understand that, man. You always gonna try to go back to the sayings that work. We're gonna go back to white privilege. We're gonna talk about that. Well, talk about what he's introducing to you of a bunch of black people telling white people, look, today on this university, I'm gonna need for y'all not to come to school. Let this be a black university for a day. No, this ain't no HBCU. Better get your ass on somewhere. You cannot do that because you're separating people based off race. That's literally racism. Literally. And then you're making demands to fire an instructor if he don't decide to bend to your rules. Nah. Oh, and then also it says it was saying on that day, I mean, they did that with the Black Panthers movie. It was like, on the Black Panthers movie, y'all not gonna come inside the theater, let black people have this. But what you can do, you can stand guard outside of the door to make sure that we are not harmed by any white folk. Come on, it's ignorant. And it's a waste of damn time, to be honest with you, because the real world has so many things that's going to throw at you, and health being one of them. Sometimes y'all need to understand too, that all these things that you're working on, trying to make ways for black people and disenfranchised people, people who are not represented properly, who don't receive certain privileges, so to speak. Y'all are spending y'all are wasting time and not focusing on what's important, like focusing on relationships, focusing on networking. You're in a great opportunity to network with people from all over the world, all walks of life. But instead of doing that, we want to do our own thing. We want to create some ruckus. And if that culture does something that makes you feel disrespected, guess what? You have a conversation with them. And if they don't want to have a conversation with you about it, and they want to be like, I don't know, we want to do our own thing, leave us alone. Then, hey, you leave them alone. Hey, do your thing. Just know that I don't like it. I ain't rocking with it. And they're going to do the same for you. But at the end of the day, we need to learn how to respect each other's space and talk more, man. Like, this is kind of dumb. It's kind of dumb. And young lady, also, I want to say this, and then I'm just going to play it. Don't expect for people to succumb to you trying to hold them accountable when you won't even hold yourself and others who are on your side accountable. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
who told you about this white privilege thing? When did you and how did you first find out about that? Because you didn't think that way prior to somebody telling you. Who told you that?
When I first came to college, I was in a program called the Freshman Summer Program at UCLA with the Academic Advancement Program, which is for increasing the enrollment and the retention rate of students of color on campus. And I think I ran into a book about the experiences of students of color in higher education and the fact that we have to do more to be successful in higher education, but the way to do that is to be engaged with your environment, being active on campus, things like that. And I think I ran into white privilege, not necessarily in that book, but probably in a discussion around that. I learned about it definitely in my first quarter at UCLA. I think being in the higher education environment is something thrown around all the time. And I also learned about it in the social justice space.
Oh.
Yeah, I started working.
Social justice warriors.
Yeah, I started working for the residential life at UCLA, and we had social justice training, and we talked about that a lot.
And what is social justice?
So
you said social justice space, right? Mm-hmm. What is that exactly?
So, social justice space, the term space in higher education at least, is what we throw around to signify the tone of a space or an environment. It's like transitioning the place into a space that has intentionality around it, that it's here for a set purpose. And so when we say social justice space, it's like saying that we have a space to discuss this or a space to create this. So
And that
such
means
stuff.
no whites are allowed in this space?
Not at all. Not at all.
Not in the space at all?
No. I mean, they're allowed. It's not saying that they're.
It's the space to talk about black stuff. Like, this is our Black history space. We are on a white campus. We need some black space so we can talk about black stuff without being interrupted. Now, white people, you can come along, you can join, you can sit down, but shut up. Don't speak unless you're spoken to. But that's what she's talking about, and discussing how to improve, not improve race relations, actually, because that's not something that they want to improve. It's just a place where they can discuss, you know, being black in America and what problems are you facing. We want to talk about the problems you're facing, and we want to figure out how to fix those problems. Then you have all of these privileged black kids talking about their made-up problems that they're facing, and then, you know, okay, we got the anger together now. Yeah, what we're gonna do is we're gonna meet up next Saturday on campus. We're gonna meet up at the yard, all right, and we're gonna all have on black. We're gonna make up some signs and we're gonna march. There's a couple of things we're gonna say. We're gonna say hell no, we won't go. We're gonna say no justice, no peace. We're gonna say Barack Obama.
They're
But
not.
they have to be quiet, no opinions.
No, they can express their opinions. At least in this space, what we mean is to make sure we create something that's equitable and fair for everyone to share their opinion, respect their opinion.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
I am so excited. I can't believe it. Finally, the Fall Estate merchandise is here. Comfortable. Did you wait for you to help? You're gonna love it. You don't look like, you know, I didn't expect.
I'm sorry, I laugh because when he started doing his commercials, man, it's like it looks so infomercially. I cannot believe it. The Fallen State stuff is here. We got all of the merchandise. We got the t-shirts. We got the mugs. We got the shoes. We got the Fallen State sofas that's on sale for 25% off when you put in the promo code Fallen State 25.
Fact,
I can't make fun of him when I do the exact same thing on my daggone hats commercials.
when I heard you were coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
I expected a black older woman with an afro to kind of hear
Yeah.
me roar.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is it possible you've been brainwashed?
That I've been brainwashed.
Yeah, and they pulled you into this dark world where you should not be because you don't have that personality.
No, I don't think I've been brainwashed. I think, if anything, I've been enlightened.
Really?
I don't think, I've been in a position where I don't think my views are very extreme, at least, and I don't think my views are incredibly conservative.
Have you been told that you look white and act white?
In
by
high
black
school,
people?
I've never heard that in higher education. Never at UCLA.
But in high school, other black kids told you that?
Probably, not even in high school, probably middle school.
In high school, you said it correctly the first time, and that's the issue right there. And I'm gonna speak on that issue in like 5 minutes, I promise. But because I feel like I've said too much, so let me go and let them talk. But this young lady is very familiar. I've seen her before, not her physically before, but I've seen her before in many other kids, and also I've seen her in my kids. I've seen her in my kids in high school, especially.
And that's a part of ignorance, because I think what I've learned as well, and what we've learned now in this new age activism, is the fact that real resistance for black people is freedom, and respecting our freedom, it means
Freedom
respecting
from
the fact
what,
that we
From
can
what?
live
From who?
freedom to live however we want to live.
But white people don't care how you guys live.
But that's not necessarily true.
No, they want you to go away and live.
I think, well, at least from history, it tells us that our image, our aesthetics have always been criticized and manipulated by white people.
Yeah, people can have opinions. People can have opinions. But guess what? We put our business out there in the streets through our music. They don't know what's going on in the hood. But guess what? They do know because we put it on our music. And guess what? We can be out there talking about the white people this, the white people that, the white people did this, the white people did that. And then on our music, we talking about killing, do this, twerking in the headlights, twerking in the street. And you effing everybody. You got 5 B's. I mean, 5 chicks that you smash, and you got 5 dudes that you smash, and you making all of the drug money. You shooting everybody. You hate police. You don't think that they're listening to that? Absolutely, they're listening to that. And if that's their only explanation of what's going on in our urban communities, guess what? And then we fuss when we see stereotypes on these commercials, on these TV shows, on movies, and we feel like why police approaching us like they're afraid or something, like we're gonna do something to them, because maybe our music say that we're gonna shoot them. You ever thought about that? No, you haven't. But the thing is, people don't want to hold themselves accountable. They only want to hold others accountable.
No,
Yeah.
it's not true.
Yeah.
They lied to you again. Would you date a white man?
Yeah, I would.
You would date the enemy?
I can date whoever I want. The white man isn't the enemy, the institution
But how you
is.
going to have your space away from him?
I can always have my space. I can always create that space. What I look for in a
You
mate.
would date a white man?
I've dated Asian men. What I look for in a
Have you
man
dated a
isn't
white
their.
man?
Yeah, I have.
Would you believe me if I told you that all this stuff that you've been taught and other black kids are being taught about the black thing and white privilege and all that mess is not real? It's just you guys are being brainwashed by angry blacks who want to control you in order to gain power and wealth for themselves.
Would
Would you believe me if I told you that's what's really going on?
No, I wouldn't.
You would not believe me.
I would not.
And why not?
I would not, because I've seen it. You know, I've seen the. Before becoming chairperson of the African Student Union at UCLA, I worked for Congresswoman Maxine Waters
I heard.
in DC.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry to hear that.
It was an amazing experience. I worked for her.
She's such a dirty woman.
She's an amazing woman.
She's a dirty woman.
She's amazing. She has a beautiful spirit. I worked
Really?
for her in 2015.
Can you tell us about the demands that black student unions have been making at other colleges?
Yeah, many of them have resembled some of ours. Ours are just very specific to what we have already in terms of our resources. Other campuses have demanded black resource centers, endowments. So UC Berkeley was able to get an endowment of around, I believe $25 million for black students. And they were able to get a black resource center as well as Dominguez Hills. UC Santa Cruz made a demand for black student housing, as did Cal State Los Angeles. But their demands surround a lot of other things. We had demands last year, and one of which was for an increase in black faculty and to make sure they're tenured, and also to get a black recruitment officer to directly recruit black students to campus.
Can white students make these same demands of these universities? Would you be okay with that if they did it?
White students can do whatever they please.
And it wouldn't be a problem?
But I think the problem
Let's say they wanted
in
a
that,
white student information center, they wanted $40 million for white people, an endowment for them. They wanted safe spaces for white people, just as blacks are demanding it. Would that be fine?
the thing is, they already have that. They already have that.
But would
See, that's BS. If somebody was to come to Howard University, Norfolk State University, Morgan State University, any of the HBCUs, and they're white, and they're saying, like the young white, I checked out a video from a channel called Vice, and there was a white boy who decided to attend Morehouse University. And Morehouse is an all male school. Right next to Spelman, which is an all young lady school, and it's black universities. And if he was to attend there and immediately start raising Cain about, we need more white representation here, this is racist. Like, what's going on? We need more white this and white that. We need more white instructors, more white, more programs for white people that we can, mesh with. And I think we will probably say to him, but we only got the HBCU because y'all wouldn't let us come to y'all white schools. So we created our own. So now we got our own. Now you want this. Well, guess what? When you enter into a PWI, a predominantly white institution, you can't enter a PWI and then start demanding black representation. because you are the one that decided to attend the PWI. The university hires who they hire. They're teaching who they're teaching. If you want to go somewhere else, then go somewhere else. But that comes off as weak for a black person to say. It's like, nah, they already doing good. They got a huge slice of the pie already. We need to change this. Okay, well, when you decide in your mind that we need to change this, the onus is on you to maintain the peace now. You can't complain. You cannot complain. Complaining is all over. Because what you're doing is you're on somebody else's stomping ground, telling them what's about to happen. Life doesn't work that way. That's what people need to understand. Life does not work that way. And demanding inclusion is BS. It's BS. It didn't happen organically. So why would you want it? Why would you want it? If you're in a relationship, say you start dating, right? You're in a serious relationship later on in life, that probably will happen. If you're dating a man, woman, black woman, whatever, white man, whatever. And they only do things for you because you demanded that you're going to do these things for me and that's it. What type of relationship is that? You bullying somebody, oh, you're going to be afraid that they're going to do anything about to be himself around you. If you're going to be happy with something like that, that says a whole lot about you. And there's a bunch of people out here in this world that are happy with demanding something from somebody and still being happy that they received what they demanded. Like, what? You're demanding this inclusion. But hey, that's what freedom fighters are for. Keep on fighting for freedom.
Would that be fine if they did it, though?
It would be a problem because it would be a show at least of white supremacy to have only white spaces. You know what I mean? It's like that's what that's what the country has created for generations already. That's what it stood to be before now. And so when we're asking for these
See, again, she was taught this in school. Okay, carry on.
things, it's not because we're trying to create black-only spaces. It's because we don't have space already.
That is so insane.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But you totally believe it, huh?
He does.
I totally do.
As black students on this campus, many of us face tremendous institutional racism and obstacles in our journey during our undergraduate career. The fact that the number is unacceptably low and stagnant for black students, staff, and faculty throughout the UC system for the last few decades seriously affects our recruitment and retention in this institution. Ranging from the daily microaggressions to outright hostilities as well as racially themed parties, our experiences on this campus warrant a deeper commitment to the services necessary to recruit and retain us. 2 years ago, these are examples, there was a gangster-themed party in which white students dressed in stereotypical gangster attire, reflecting perceptions of what is perceived as urban African-American dress. The environment here at UCSB is hostile and we need to change it.
Let me ask, if black kids grew up with good fathers and mothers, and they lived in, and because they had good parents, the neighborhoods were fine, the schools worked in their districts or in their areas, would we still be having this same problem with white supremacists, as you call it?
If all of that was able to thrive, I don't know if white supremacy would be able to thrive. So probably not. We probably wouldn't have a conversation with white supremacy if black people at least were in a utopia.
So why not solve that problem? Get parents to be responsible. Make sure the schools function well. Get rid of their black leaders and think for themselves. And stop hating. Do you love white people?
I do love white people.
You love white people. And stop hating the white man and blaming him. Because black people look very weak blaming white people. Like they're just blaming, which implies that indicates that they think white people are smarter than them, can do better than them, and rather than learning from the whites, they're blaming them.
Bruh, he didn't say anything that was false just now. Yeah, I agree, sir.
I think that's a good point, and that's the point of our demands. Our demands are very proactive. They're not reactive
But not
to
when
anything.
you're begging for money and stuff.
We're not begging for anything. We're not begging for
What
anything.
would happen if the school did not meet your demands? What would happen to blacks?
Then we will still create we will create a way to get what we need. So at least the academic supports program and SHAPE, what I mentioned earlier, we had a deficit of Black students on our campus in
That's because
in
affirmative
89.
action was taken away.
Yeah, and this was actually before affirmative action that we created this program. And the purpose was to make sure that we could hire Black students to make sure other Black students graduate, and then hire Black students to make sure other Black students could access UCLA. And so we were doing what we need to do for ourselves, you know what I mean? We weren't depending on a university for anything. We worked out an agreement, at least for the university, to respect us, and the funds that we get, our funds are not university funds, they come through grant money, federal money, and that's another aspect of what we create at UCLA. And we've tried to create these systems for ourselves to be more proactive and build more resources and access to resources. And that's all we're asking for the demands, just access.
We don't need them to do anything. Do you think this is a good trend for Black students to be getting into?
To be able to develop
all your demands and blaming whites and your safe spaces, and is this a good trend for Black students?
I think a good trend would be education at first, because a large part of what we're doing isn't blaming whites. We're not engaging with white people, or I'm saying, not saying that we're not engaging with white people, but we're not blaming white people. We're not attacking white people. We take our demands not to the student body president. We don't take it to white students on campus. Our demands aren't for the university student body. Our demands are for administration, at least to work out an agreement. And so I think it is a positive trend for Black student unions and African student unions to engage with the administration and university officials, because it's a dialectic.
You're not engaging, you're demanding.
We're engaging with
violence
them.
In many cases.
Not violence, I think, is a symptom, at least, of some type of another aspect in the pot. I don't think
like
that's what's entirely
no character, just angry people.
I don't think that's what intentionally comes out of things.
Let me ask, Black Lives Matter, do you agree with me that it is a far left, liberal, godless, radical, agitative organization that's been created by Black lesbians and homosexuals and social justice warriors, white social justice warrior, and that this organization is worse than the KKK?
I do not agree.
Why not?
I do not agree. KKK was an organization for violence and removing
But that's what
people.
they're for too.
Black Lives Matter is not. Black Lives Matter is for creating resources and uplifting the social status of Black people.
What about, what do you want, dead cops? When do you want it now? Peace in the blanket, fry them like bacon. And Black Lives Matter were chanting that. They show no concern about the black on black violence in Chicago and other places. They're only intimidating white folks to get something from them, but they show no love for Blacks who are living in the ghettos and killing each other.
I don't agree, that's not true.
What have they done to show love for them?
Black Lives Matter, at least they create beautiful spaces to encourage love. Outside of most people only focus and see them in their protest space, in the public space, but that does not at all represent the entire image of Black Lives Matter itself. A lot of what they try to create are education about what resistance looks like for Black people, and a lot of that is just love. Because Black people really weren't at least allowed to act freely, experience freely what they wanted, and being able to do that. At least on the plantation, Black people weren't allowed. On what plantation? On any plantation in America, Black people were really, a lot of what they wanted, a lot of what is now.
Really, man, our reasoning for doing what we doing and doing what we do is because of what we weren't able to do on the plantation. Let me put it to you like this. Black girl, her parents bust their ass, work their tails off so that she can be able to attend whatever university she wants to attend, as long as she listens to them and do exactly what they asked her to do. More than likely, that was just to fly right, make good choices, do your work, take your studies seriously, right? Now she's helping other people who want to complain have a bigger voice to do just that. Here's something that happened. If we want to continue to point out the plantation and everything that happened to us when we were slaves, something else that happened was, because we weren't able to get the type of treatment that we wanted and desired and needed and the type of respect we felt we deserved, we created HBCUs. And now HBCUs all across America are offering full 100% paid scholarships for 4-year programs. And people are not deciding to go there. They don't want to attend those universities because for whatever reasons, they don't want to attend those universities. So instead of attending the universities that people have fought and died for, we decide to go to other places and decide to change, and we want to change their minds. So that is begging. We're going to another school. We made this decision to go to this other school. Well, guess what? They have rules set up and they have a culture set up already there. And we want to go there and change their mind, be as loud as possible, and create our own space. You know what? Do what you got to do. But turmoil comes with that. Also, the way that you're sitting there trying to explain the goodness of Black Lives Matter, the things that aren't seen, the things that happen behind the scenes, and all those. And I believe you. I believe you. There's always even the KKK had cookouts. You know what I mean? They had barbecues. They show love for one another. What can we say about that? Not about my garage opening. I'm just saying love happens, but at the end of the day, what you decide to show to the world, that's what they're going to go off of. And that takes me back to the culture that we decide to show our culture in a different light. And when we're judged inappropriately, we get pissed off. Same thing's happening with the Black Lives Matter Party.
Natural of a human being, Black people weren't allowed to do
like
directly.
What, for an example?
Loving who you want to love, being able to marry another person, simply being able to laugh, to dance, to sing, to play instruments. And Black Lives Matter has the unit of art and the Ministry of Art itself, where you have that ability to have free expression.
Do you know that's not true about I grew up on a plantation.
Oh, did you?
In Alabama. My parents and their parents and their parents. My grandfather was the head of the plantation until we left in 1968. And what you just said was absolutely false. Everything you just said.
Was that a sharecropping plantation?
No.
Okay.
It was, what you just said was absolutely false.
It was a plantation, I mean, during slavery. That was, you said 1968, right?
Right, that's when I left.
Yeah. Were there
But
sharecroppers?
prior to that, my parents and their parents married whoever they wanted to marry. And they stayed together, and they had more children, their children had children. So what you just said is not true, and that's why I want you to know you've been lied to.
Well, I asked, where did the tradition
Yeah, they were sharecroppers
did you
there,
ever,
but the plantation were owned by white people.
Yeah.
And they ran it, and all the good stuff.
Yeah, so where did the tradition of jumping the broom come from? That would be my question.
Some mess that's made up by the black radicals. They say it came from Africa somewhere.
No,
but
it never came from Africa.
Don't they look dumb when they do that? Jumping a broom?
I mean, in America,
Would you jump
they
a
jump broom in America because they weren't allowed to
Would
officially
you jump
marry.
a broom?
I think it's an
No,
amazing
would you
thing.
jump a broom at your wedding?
I'm still thinking about it.
Where did you think that came from, that idea of jumping a broom?
Well, history has shown that it's actually come from Irish culture.
Right.
And slave plantation owners, like the master on the plantation, would have them do it in mockery of the fact that they didn't have real freedom to get married. And it was like, okay, here, jump a broom so you can entertain me.
Nobody jumped brooms in my family.
Okay.
They all got married.
Well, that's
no
great.
one jumped a broom. We didn't even
But that's
hear about
past
the broom
68.
thing until recently. What is cultural appropriation?
Cultural appropriation is when people are at least taking or stealing. You call it taking or stealing because there's no agreement made to use aspects of someone else's cultural practices.
So,
Like purchasing Korean hair and getting it braided into your hair, wearing fake weave. That also is cultural appropriation. A lot of black girls don't believe that because that's just accepted and that's what we do. You know what I mean? But it's also cultural appropriation. We like to bring up stuff that we only like to point fingers at other people, and that's BS, man.
like when the black students are taken away from the white folks, their money, the $40 million, and then demand for the school, that's cultural appropriation?
No, that's not an aspect of white culture.
But they're taken from the white man.
No, there's an agreement, at least if you want to put it in that context of an endowment, there's an agreement for us to create our own source of money from
But
our
they're
community.
not volunteering, they're being forced to do it.
No, they're volunteered. They're volunteer. And the thing is, the university already stands in place to work with students, to work with student organizations. And so if anything, the demand in any of the situation, there's a demand for us as student leaders to act for what our students need.
At UCLA, they have what they call safe spaces. What they call safe spaces for is black students. Is that true?
Yeah.
And so black students are now known as snowflakes?
Snowflakes?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Snowflakes, if I...
No, that's white people. That's what black people call white people. Call white women that, actually. Any black man that's dating a white woman, they say that he's dating a snowflake or a snow bunny.
If I'm right about this, there are weak people who need their own safe space.
Oh, okay,
They're
okay.
triggered very easily.
It just means that it's a protected space.
From what, though?
Meaning that you have to respect one another. It's like developing a culture of respecting the person. So even if it's a space between, because we have many shared spaces between people of color and white people, and a lot of that means that if there's an issue pertaining to a certain community, respect that issue, respect the community members to be able to speak freely on that, don't overstep them on it. When we're talking to each other, it's just coming out of us love.
Being a black woman on this campus, I have always battled with the disproportionate reality of being one black and one being a Bruin. And it only revealed that on the night of October 6th of the undercover but blatant realities of how we are seen as people of color on this campus. And that, my friends, is a shame.
And this totally makes sense to you, right? It all seems real.
Definitely does.
Does racism exist?
Yes.
What's the proof of racism?
The proof of racism, the fact that there aren't black men in the home. The proof of racism is that we're only 20% of this population, but represent 75 to 80% in the prison industrial complex.
Are you saying it's the fault of the white man that the black man is not in the home?
I'm not saying the white man, but it's the fault of the institution.
But the institution is white, right?
The institution majority white, so I guess you could say that.
And so it's their fault that the black man is not in his home.
Yes.
Why is the black man so weak that he will allow another man to make him leave his home?
Coming in, I think I hear what you're saying, and the fact that it can be attributed to another person, the reason why they're there. But coming in already, you could say, why are black people so weak that they allow themselves to be stripped from their own home, being stripped from Africa? There has been a culture of black people being resistant and fighting back. And
That was a business deal. That was something that happened in every single, well, not every single country, but a great many countries. That was business deal. That was business. Whoever had the guns, they controlled. It wasn't a whole bunch of guns going around. It wasn't a whole bunch of guns. So the people with the guns, they had to control. But guess what? This is how they mitigate that. Everywhere that there's a predominantly black city or state, they are trying to take the guns away again. And guess who's falling for it again? They're like, yes, we don't like guns. Take the guns. They're like, whew, this is easier than we thought it was going to be. Young lady, you need to be schooled like life will school you. And you know what? Congratulations on your platform. If this young lady ever sees this, congratulations on your platform. But there's a whole lot of growing that we all have to do. There's a whole lot of growing that we all have to do. And I was once you. I will say that. I was much worse. I was much worse. The stuff that I believed, the stuff I was taught, much, much worse. Trust me. I wasn't on no white university yelling through a megaphone or whatever you want to call it to the few black people that were there. I wasn't on a white university doing that. I was doing other things.
Since we've been on the shores of America, we've been cut down and killed and murdered and encouraged to not resist. And in the institution, black people at least have always been looking to find wherever they can succeed, wherever they can move up. And it's very difficult when with the system of criminalization.
This is so crazy, but
This is something that happens when you go to like the reason why we're putting up walls. This is wild. The reason why we're putting up walls right now is because we're trying to keep, we're trying to have people go through the proper ways of receiving citizenship and becoming tax-paying citizens so that they can receive their fair share of everything that's going on in this country, job opportunities, everything. All right. That's people who don't like their country. Those are people who are escaping bad situations. They are getting the hell up out of their countries because they've been treated badly. Guess what black people not doing? Okay, I'll answer it. All right, black people are not escaping the U.S. You want to ask me, you want to know why? I think you know why. I think you know why. Why is black people not escaping the U.S.? Because it's so bad for us here. Why are we not escaping? Why aren't they building walls in other countries to keep us out? I'll tell you why. It's because we've come a long damn way. We are thriving on levels we never even, our ancestors never even dreamt of. But yet, we still want to play like we are victims. That's an issue. It's an issue for me anyway. And I would never teach my kids that. Never. I understand that there are still a whole lot of ignorant ass people out here who just want to keep people bound because of where they're from, what they look like, their heritage, their culture, all those things. Guess what? We adopted that mentality because we're doing the exact same thing. Think about that. Just think about that. That's all I'm saying. Just think about that.
you're totally convinced. And you're such
I've been educated.
You're like a nice girl that I would trust, not knowing that this is inside of you.
I think if you get to meet some of my friends, you'll see that I think a lot of us are very in tune and very tapped into reality. We're not crazy. We're level-headed
It's
people.
not
This is
reality.
crazy.
That's not
Graduating with
reality.
amazing degrees from UCLA and going to do it more.
That's not reality.
Racism does not exist, by the way. It's an illusion. It's another lie that's
Okay.
been made up by the children
Okay.
of the deceiver.
So
the
how
devil.
is it an illusion if black people have been, oppressed and pushed down into their situations, and the fact that
Black folks were
people are
doing
taken
better
here?
before the civil rights movement than they are today because they relied on themselves. They relied on the family. They did not follow black leaders. They were not brainwashed as they are today. And so they
Not
did
necessarily.
better.
I think it's an aspect of numbers.
No.
Because once people were being integrated into communities between black and white, that's when the institution itself was able to make the system of how they did things
But
a little
that
bit more
shows the
ambiguous.
weakness of black people, though. Those black people are weak, and they're still weak. One last thing, define white supremacy for me.
Well,
Define that.
Yeah, white supremacy is this strong push for all whiteness, I guess, all white issues, and a push for
Who's pushing for that?
a push on all aspects, and it's kind of an aspect of racism, because racism isn't just a thing, it's an institution of oppressing a group of people on the basis of their cultural backgrounds, and white supremacy is like directly stemming from that. You're a white supremacist if you're acting in that way when you're aiding in the institution, like continuing in the system of racism.
I think that white people have made a horrible mistake by not pushing for their whiteness over the last 50 to 60 years.
You said white people have made the mistake of not pushing for their whiteness?
Right, for their own space and not giving in to the demand of the radical blacks, because look what has happened. I think that's started to change because you have the alt-right and others who are now starting to stand up and fight back. So I think, but what you don't realize is that black people are turning every other culture away from them. Most cultures hate black people because they see them as angry and violent and demanding and criminals and out of wedlock birth and just want to impose upon other people rather than being independent and doing and loving folks and doing the right thing. So your efforts are hurting you as opposed to helping. Did you know that most cultures don't like black people anymore? They don't want to be around you.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, and absolutely true. But even if you had a legitimate cause, if you had one, the attitude and the way you're doing it is hurting and not helping.
Come on, man, seriously. All these daggone entitled little kids are laying in the daggone grass singing Lean on Me from a movie of hood children in black neighborhoods who are actually going through real stuff. No, I'm glad that they can find their solace together, and they can find, oh man, look at all of us, we black and we complaining together, man. We singing songs, harmonizing everything, man. This is good. This is real good. This is a blessing. This is a blessing. I love it. I love it. This is amazing. Let me tell y'all something, man. One day you're gonna have to grow up. One day you're gonna have to grow up. But when people say, go back to your country, or go back where you came from, or if you don't like it, then leave, we take that as racist too. But that's actually what every single other culture does. When they don't like their country, they leave it. And guess where they're usually coming? They're usually coming to the US. Things are never going to be fair, depending on how you look at it. When my kids complain about fairness, I tell them, look, life ain't fair. Just gotta do the best that you can do. You know what I mean? Do your best, and we'll move from there. But this young lady is something else, man. But it is what it is. Shout out to you and your platform. Continue to do your thing. Continue to grow as an activist. There's a lot of money in activism. I see why a lot of people are getting into it. But you know what I mean, while the activists are the true activists aren't taking from the same institutions that they're fighting against. They are building their own, and that's all they talk about is our own. Because as much as we stand up and we want to be the loudest voice out there and fighting for change and whatnot, there's a more radical group out there who think that you yourself is a part of the problem. Now it's y'all turn. I want to hear what y'all guys say about this in the comments below. And if you have yet to hit that subscribe button, please make sure you do so on your way out the door. Once again, guys, I'm Van, and now we are all the LFR family. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video, and hopefully inside the Patreon as well. Y'all have been amazing per usual. Love y'all.